Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books. And today I have a very special video talking about the classics that I've been collecting. This was a video that was requested by Luna Guest here on YouTube, and she requested to see my copy, my edition of the Count of Monte Cristo. And I thought I would take advantage of this request to talk about some of my other classics. I don't have a ton, but I do have the Three Musketeers and I have War and Peace. So these are definitely chunksters, and I have made an explicit effort to collect some of these big classics in like editions that I like. So that was the main reason why I have the particular editions that I have, that I liked the cover. A lot of these classics I've owned in the past. I've never read them, but I have owned them in the past, and what I was primarily looking for in these editions was to have pretty like collectible ones and to also read them. So let me talk about the Count of Monte Cristo. This was my favorite kind of cover of it. It is paperback, so what I like about paperbacks is that they're easier to hold. Like these chunksters and classic in hardcovers I don't like, because you end up having to hold the book a lot and they're heavier and for me just harder to hold. So I did want them all in paperback. This is the Modern Library edition. It is $16 in the US, and let me see who's translating it. It does have an introduction by Lorenzo Carcatera, and the translator, let's see who's the translator. So I have no clue who translated this. Hopefully I'll put it on the screen once I figure it out. But so a few things about this edition of it. The pages are thin. They've packed a lot of pages into this edition of it. They are kind of like, yeah, they're really, really thin, thinner than normal pages. And like, let me show you. Let me turn some pages so you can see. Very, very thin. So that's one of the main problems with this kind of edition of it. The writing is small, but I feel like I'm used to seeing it smaller in a lot of these kinds of editions. So I find that this is about average. Let me grab a different book. One I have sitting right here is the 5. This is a hardcover edition, and I feel like the font is not considerably smaller than the font in this one. However, if you have trouble with your eyesight, this might not be the ideal edition for it. I don't know if they have like the bigger fonts on some of these, but I feel like this one's not tiny. So it's much more readable than some of the other editions out there. So Luna, let me know if you have questions about this particular edition of the Count of Monte Cristo down below. I think that answers most of your questions. I do plan on reading this in the very near future this year. I want to read it in 2020. And I just haven't decided how I'm going to do that. If I'm going to do like a read along and seeing if anybody else wants to read it. I know several different groups have read it recently, and they've all like spoken really well about this book, and it has gotten me excited to want to read it. But I feel like with some of these larger classics, it's easier when you're reading them with a group or buddy reading them rather than reading them on your own. So yeah. Let's look at the Three Musketeers. So this is in the Penguins Classic Edition, the Penguins Classics Deluxe Edition. That's what it is. And I really, really like this. I don't remember who I saw on Instagram had this edition, and I loved it. It's like in a little like kind of cartoon cover. This one does have the translator quickly easily noted here. It's translated with an introduction by Richard Pevear, possibly. And it's kind of whimsical and cute. That's why I got this particular edition. I did think about like collecting all these classics in one particular edition, but because I didn't like all the covers in the different editions, I just decided to get different ones and to really get the ones with the covers I liked. It really came down to aesthetics. And I wish I had paid a little more attention to translation rather than aesthetics. But honestly, like, if I'm going to be collecting them, I want them to look pretty. Yeah, as superficial as that seems. This one also has deckled edges. So you see how all the pages are kind of different sizing here. I like deckled edges, so I'm happy with that. And let me open that up so you can see these. Unlike the Count of Monte Cristo, these pages are more substantial. They're not as thin. They're physically thicker. They're still a little bit thinner than like normal books, or not, not these chunkster classics. Like as I'm touching the the 5 here that I have, those are thicker, but this is definitely much thicker than the Count of Monte Cristo. The ones in the Count of Monte Cristo feel more like Bible pages. In terms of the font, this is not tiny font either. I do feel like this font is comparable to the one in the Count of Monte Cristo. So here you have, so you can see side by side. So I'm happy with this part here because makes it easier to read. It'll make it easier to hold. I'm pretty happy with this edition of The Three Musketeers. Now for War and Peace. I think this one's is this thicker. Oh my god, I think this one's thicker. Okay. Let's see what edition of this is. A vintage classic, and this was just my favorite cover of War and Peace that I could find. And it is, let's see, translated by Richard Pevear and Larissa Volokhonsky. Larissa Volokhonsky. So hey, Pevear seems to be a common translator. These pages, oh, let me see. Now this is an interesting comparison. I think they're thinner than the Three Musketeers, but thicker than the Count of Monte Cristo. So let me show you. So this is interesting. They're definitely thinner than a normal book. Thinner than the ones I just showed you from the Three Musketeers, but thicker than the Count of Monte Cristo. So that tells me that these are definitely on the thinner, much more fragile size, the pages. The font, though, is smaller. So I'm looking at it. It is smaller than the other two. So let me show you. Or is it just that the page is bigger? Huh. So let me, like, marginally smaller. Yeah, I do feel like these are a little bit smaller, but like not by a lot. Once you have them side by side, it doesn't look like a lot. But when I look at these separately, this one looks smaller. I am wearing my contacts at the moment, so that might be, that might make a difference. If I took them off, I might be able to more clearly see a difference between them. But yeah, it looks a little bit smaller, not substantially smaller, just smaller. So yeah, so again, I'm building this collection of classics. I don't know which one I'm gonna get next. I just knew that these were the 3 that I was the most interested in owning, so I looked for different editions of it. I didn't look for particular ones, like some of these, like the Three Musketeers I've seen on Instagram. War and Peace, I literally went on like the different sellers pages and just scrolled and scrolled until I found an edition of it that had a cover I liked. That really came down to it. The same thing with the Count of Monte Cristo. This one though was, I'm not 100% like the aesthetic of this. I like this cover out of all the covers I saw, but I wished like that one of these other publishers had done this version, like a much more whimsical version of the Count of Monte Cristo. But I'm happy with what I've got for now. I do want Crime and Punishment is one that I want next. I've read that one though, so that's why it wasn't on like my immediate to buy list, because I felt like if I was going to start with books that I haven't read that I wanted to get to, and then eventually collect some of the other ones that I've read as well. So I don't know, any ideas, any thoughts on which I should buy next. Feel free to let me know down below. If you have any questions about these editions, please let me know. I will try to place links for each of the editions. Did I bought them mostly off of Amazon? I think I did. So those might be the links I leave down below. You want more specific like pictures of what's inside and things like that, also let me know. But that is it. Those are the 3 like chunkster classics that I have, and a little bit of a discussion of why I picked the ones that I did. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.